Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Millennial Nerds podcast episode. I don't know, it's been a long time. Thank you for jumping on. If you're jumping on, I like that there's some viewers on. Go ahead and join the chat. We're going to talk about PlayStation news today. We have a new PS update, of course. I don't have a name for the show yet. A lot of great names are already taken. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay and just fine. My boom arm, unfortunately, I've got to get a new piece for this right here, so I've got my Yeti in my hand, as inappropriate as that sounds. I lost these screws to do the... Look, here's the thing. I don't care about your Halloween marathon, okay? It is January. Not that I'm going to say that it's not okay to have a Halloween marathon at any point in time. So let's talk about PlayStation. I want this to be a PlayStation-centered podcast. This is going to be available on YouTube as well as other podcast services under Millennial Nerds. So go ahead and follow those. The idea behind this is there's a lot of other PlayStation podcasts I'm hearing out there, and we will have guests eventually. I'm setting that up now. But the idea is that a lot of them really are very critical, more so, I'm hearing. More so than being positive. And we will be critical on this show, don't get me wrong. But we're here to celebrate PlayStation, right? We're huge PlayStation fans. We're huge fans of gaming. I don't really condone console wars, but I usually like to bring up critical points on all sides. So, you don't even have an Xbox, so don't even start. So, the idea is that we're going to kind of evolve and go from there. And if you're a fan of that, great. If not, there's other places out there that you can go get content from. I will not incite flame wars to an extent. I may joke around here and there. I don't think Xbox sucks or anything like that. I do think they have a great ecosystem. There are some things that I don't really care for that they do, but that's not what this is about right now. So let's talk about the stories. So stories today are... PlayStation is still manufacturing the PS4, and that is something that a lot of people are concerned about because a lot of people can't get a PS5 still. So my take on that is you still have to manufacture the PS4. There are still people out there that don't have a PS4, and there are still people out there who are still buying video game systems. When we think of gaming as in our particular nature, right? But the problem with that is we're not the number one customer. Gamers themselves, we're minute. We're the hardcore gamers. The biggest one, yeah, we'll talk about Last of Us Director's Cut too. But the biggest one is think about right now is majority of gamers out there are mobile gamers. I'm sure you guys just seen Rockstar's big, parent company just bought Zynga for $12 billion, right? That's mobile gaming. That's where a lot of the money is at. So when it comes down to gaming in general, yes, 100 million plus PlayStation 4s have been sold, but there's still a market out there to get those customers. And those components aren't exactly the same thing as what's in a PS5. Okay? So it's not exactly the same thing, right? So we have to look at it from that aspect. So, yes, it does. I understand if you don't have a PS5 right now, it does concern you. Because you're thinking of they're taking all that manufacturing labor, they're taking all the parts and everything like that to make sure that we get, PS4s, but I really want a PS5. I'll admit, getting a PS5 was a headache for me. I got one back on January 16th. I know the date from Target because their website decided that they were going to malfunction for a few seconds, and they were able to put, I guess, more that they had online. Because when I went there initially doing the drops, it wasn't available. But luckily, I stayed with it, clicked on a few things, and I was able to get one. Took a picture of it, was excited and everything. Didn't believe it until I actually picked it up. So, if you don't have one yet, there's ways to get one. Twitter is your best friend. Wario64, as well as PlayStation 5 updates, is great. Make sure you have your notifications turned on, and you will be able to get one. So, that's my quick take on that. Let's talk about the Last of Us Director's Cut then. All right. So, a lot of people are upset that Last of Us is being remade. And I guess the line of thinking is the game itself is only 9 years old as of right now, if I'm not mistaken. And is there really a need for a Last of Us remake? but you also have to understand the marketing beats that that's going to be with, right? So we all know that the Uncharted movie is coming out in February. But what's coming out before then? Well, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, right? Or what it combines Among Thieves and Lost Legacy. So for the PS5, and I think PC as well. So of course, we're going to go ahead and release that before, right? So of course, we're going to go ahead and focus on that aspect because the idea is we want to generate money, we want to generate marketing. So how are you going to generate marketing? Most people, and I dare I say this, most people may know that Uncharted is a video game series, but most people probably haven't played it. Uncharted 4, I think, did 16 million units selling it, and that may not include the PS Plus that was given to it, or if you download it from PS Plus. A lot of people may know who Nathan Drake is, but it's not a household name. It's not Mario. It's something along those lines. So, of course, you're going to drum up any marketing you can for that. And it's the same thing with The Last of Us. The Last of Us is even more of a niche series if you think about it. We are very tired of zombie series, right? There's not a lot of hype I see for Dying Light 2 right now. Because it's like, man, zombie, 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 zombie. Now, The Last of Us, I think, does a great job of kind of turning that on its head. And it focuses more on the human aspect and story. More so than, let's talk about Days Gone, right? I've played Days Gone, not impressed with it, and quite frankly, I wish the directors would stop complaining about how they don't get a Days Gone 2. Like, if you had an idea for your game and it was pitched and it didn't work, then sorry, that's the nature of the business. That's how it goes. I'm not a game developer, I don't know, but I am in business, and if my ideas in business don't work, sorry. That's just the truth of the matter. Anyways, back to The Last of Us Director's Cut. I don't think there's a problem with it because if you think about it, if as long as they go at it from the aspect of, are they going to improve The Last of Us to have The Last of Us 2's mechanics? Because say what you will about Last of Us 2's story, I think it was great. The mechanics of The Last of Us Part 2 are some of the best video game mechanics in modern day gaming. And it's going to be one of those games that a lot of people look at when they're developing games as something that, man, we really need to kind of look at what they did in their systems to kind of see and kind of go from there. And I could think about a lot of those encounters in The Last of Us Part 1 where they don't feel the same because of how well they could be done now. So I do think there is a precedence for it. Not a lot of people may not have wanted it, but what comes out this year, or presumably this year? The Last of Us series on HBO. And Sony and HBO are putting a lot of money and a lot of resources into this show, right? So they're going to push it ahead. Why not? Because you got to think about it, right? If you're somebody who's watching the Last of Us TV show and you're like, man, what? This is based on a video game? Well, let me take a look at the video game that's available for it. Well, there's the PS3 version or the PS4 remastered version, or you can get the brand new PS5 version. Most customers are going to buy the brand new PS5 version. It makes sense, right? Now, I don't know if they're going to package it or if there's going to be, an upgrade fee or anything like that. I know a lot of people are upset about certain upgrade fees that Sony does. Yeah, 100%. If you go from part 1 to part 2, the controls are night and day. And I cannot wait to see what it does with the DualSense controller on the PS5. It's just amazing. But yeah, going from I'm not even talking about like a graphical standpoint. I'm talking about a gameplay standpoint. If you go from part 1 to part 2, it's really hard to go back to playing part 1. It's like going from Uncharted 4 to Uncharted 1 sometimes. Because it's the mechanics are there, the basics are in the first game, but the evolution is so much better that it really the immersion and everything is more tactical. The AI in Last of Us Part 2 is fantastic. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but if you happen to kill somebody, the AI will cry out for that character. They'll call them by name, like they go off route and things like that. So there's a lot of cool aspects to it that a lot of people may not realize that it does. So there's a lot of different things that it can do, right? So I think that partially a lot of people, Uncharted 2 definitely, I agree. I think partially why a lot of people get upset by it is because they feel like Naughty Dog or whoever's working on it should be working on something new. And I agree. I still think they are working on something new. You got to think that when these game companies are able to be successful, they're able to branch out their teams, and then they're able to work on other things more than just one project at a time. Look at Gorilla. Gorilla has worked on Horizon Zero Dawn, and they're getting ready to put out Horizon Forbidden West in February. And we're also aware of the fact they've hired in, I think, 2019 and in 2020 for a multiplayer game. So that's not Killzone, presumably. So we know that when a team is able to be successful, they're able to grow and work on more things. And I think the more things you work on, I think it's the better for the console. Because not every game speaks to everybody. Not every game is going to be something that's, groundbreaking to you, but it may be the best game ever for somebody else because we all have different taste. And that's fine. So I think that's something to really kind of think about. It's not necessarily taking away resources, because you got to think the money that they're going to make off that game coming out, because it's going to sell well, is going to be putting more money in the pocket of the new IP that Naughty Dog may be working on. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Now, I completely understand if you're on the side that, I just want new stuff. Well, if you just want new stuff, make sure you support the new stuff that goes out there, because obviously, I look at a game like Returnal from last year, right? Returnal has done well for Sony, but you got to think, like, the last sales update I got for it was only 500,000 copies. So obviously, new stuff isn't always something that's going to be absolutely crazy when it comes to sales. Yes, it probably exceeded expectations, and yes, the PlayStation 5 doesn't have a big install drive. I think it's about 10, 11 million people now, maybe 12. So, but you got to think that's not a huge percentage of attachment for a game like that. So, it's one of those things where you're kind of chancing it. So yeah, Max, you bring up a good point. Tomb Raider, specifically, like the first Tomb Raider, I enjoyed, but it's like, look at Crystal Dynamics, right? Tomb Raider 2, the whole fiasco, and I think honestly what did the Tomb Raider series in is, I think, the fiasco around when they went exclusive with Xbox for a year. I think that killed that series, personally. I think all your fans were mainly probably on PlayStation. Tomb Raider and PlayStation go hand in hand. So, of course, that's going to derail that momentum that you have from that. So, any goodwill that you established with that first game, you lost it when you went exclusive for just a year with a company that doesn't have, with the fan base that doesn't necessarily think that you're the best, right? So when Tomb Raider 3 came out, nobody really batted an eye, nobody really cared. So what did Crystal Dynamics have to do next? They worked on Avengers, and that game, of course, is very mixed reaction when it comes to that. So you have to understand that game developers are going to work on things that they know are going to be successful and sell well. We're not going to get another Tomb Raider for a long time. I would be surprised. Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider did not do well critically, as a comparative to other games. But if you look at The Last of Us 1 and Last of Us 2 are 90s on Metacritic. Of course you're going to continue that series. Now, are you going to do a Last of Us Part 3? Probably 8 years from now. Sure. But you're going to continue the series. It's Metacritic, and its popularity is about to blow up exponentially because of the series on HBO. I'm excited for the HBO series. If you're not aware of the HBO series, take a look at some of the information. There's been some stills that have been released, but casting is great. Pedro Pascal, who played the Mandalorian, or as I know him from Game of Thrones season 4, pretty much the I call him the Game of Thrones version of Inigo Montoya from Princess Bride. He's the one who got his head bashed in, or kind of squished in by the mountain. Very, very horrible scene. I'm a very squeamish person, so I have a hard time watching that. Great actor, though. He's going to be playing Joel. And then, of course, go back to Game of Thrones again. And one of the characters that are in there, the younger character, I believe, that played the little lord from one of the winter areas. It was a little lady. I can't remember her name. It's escaping me now. Like Bella Ramsey is the actual actress's name. So, a lot of great stuff when it comes down to that. I'm excited for that series. When that actually comes out, more and more, we'll have more information on it. PlayStation news itself. So, Twisted Metal has supposedly been moved in-house. The reboot of the game was being handled by Lucid, the ones that did Destruction All-Stars, but I think lukewarm reception of Destruction All-Stars, I think that has moved it in-house, and supposedly it's Firesprite that's continuing to work on it. Firesprite is a company that Sony picked up last year that usually has more interest in VR, so we may get a Twisted Metal VR to kind of come out with the PSVR 2. PSVR 2 was announced recently at CES. I think it was announced, but it was actually kind of talked about more and officially named at CES. Exciting stuff there. This also correlates to, people are very worried that, like, okay, so we don't have PS5s in the wild. You're still manufacturing the PS4, and you're going to bring out the PS5. You can't stop as a company you can't stop as a company when it comes to innovating, right? That's just not right. It's not fair. Look at Nintendo. Nintendo came out with the OLED Switch. How many people wanted a Switch Pro instead? How many people wanted a souped up Switch but didn't get it? Instead, Nintendo comes out with what you don't want. How about the fact that, if we were to get, a PS5 Pro, that's where I would think that would be, oh, that's not right, because nobody has a PS5, or, not everybody who has one wants one. So, I think when you have an accessory, like the PSVR 2, I think that's fine. PSVR was very successful for Sony, so I don't know why they wouldn't continue that way. Especially when you think about how much money is being placed into VR right now. I mean, Facebook has entirely shifted their entire business focus to be around VR and the metaverse. So you got to think that VR it's probably something that's going to be here to stay. And you got to think about the exclusives that Sony's able to offer that, Facebook's not going to have any part of because of that. And yes, I know that it's a tethered device. You get one wire, and that does make it a little bit cumbersome. But at the same time, you're going to get much more powerful games, or the opportunity to play much more powerful games, perhaps like a Half-Life Alyx on a console, which is awesome. Like that right there in itself is something that you should be excited for, as long as you can handle VR. VR is not for everybody. I did try Skyrim VR, and that made me sick. But I've played other games in VR, and it's been a great experience. I'm actually hooking up the VR soon, and I'm going to be getting into Beat Saber, hopefully as a good way for some exercise and some weight loss. So, that's the current PlayStation news. If you guys want to talk about anything else, feel free to drop it in the chat. That's fine. But let's talk about PlayStation 2021, right? So, I got my PlayStation 5 at the very start of 2021, so I was able to dive into a lot of games that came out with the launch of the PS5. So, we're kind of bundle the launch in with, typically the end of the year. So, the launch of the PS5, I think, was extremely successful when it came to games. Now, I get it, some of the games are available on PS4, and some of them are on PS5. However, I will tell you that playing games on a PS4 Pro, going into a PS5, is a totally different story. It is a much more immersive experience, not just graphically or fidelity, but the DualSense controller, this guy right here, really, really makes a huge difference. It really does. Yeah. Talk to you about your car's extended warranty. We've been trying to reach you. So, the DualSense makes things so much, it's crazy. It really is. Like, how much more immersive that actually makes the games. Miles Morales, for prime example. Fantastic game. Was it on the shorter side? It was, but it was also priced on the shorter side too, right? So, playing that game, I still got at least 20 to 30 hours of solid play out of it. Got a platinum trophy for it. And my stepson was like, "Whoa, that's nuts! I love this game." Like he's insanely he was insane about it for a while, and he won 100% of the game. Like that was awesome. Like he doesn't do that. So just the traversal system in it and everything, but just playing on the PS5 was just like, wow, that's crazy. So yeah. Max, you actually bring up a good point. So PS Plus versus PlayStation Now, pros and cons. So there's going to be an entire episode dedicated to that I have planned out, that I'm going to show you how PS Now gets such a bad rap versus Xbox Game Pass. And there's going to be a whole episode of that I have planned out, and there's going to be a whole discussion with other people about that. But just a quick side for me, PS Plus is fantastic. You get a lot of great games. You get to keep the games first and foremost, as long as you have a PlayStation Plus subscription. I tested this out, right? Hook up the PS3, right? Hook it up. I was able to still download all my PlayStation Plus games. That's not an issue whatsoever. And I hooked it up so I can play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 because you can't play it anywhere else. So, well, at least anywhere that's, easy to do. So the fact that I was able to still do that meant that, of course, like they haven't taken that away from us yet. So, and that's kind of like the bottom line for it too. It's like, hey, that's what we're doing. Here you go. PlayStation Now, I think, is a great service. We'll talk about pros first or both. PlayStation Now, I think, is a great service. It's come a long way. I was an initial adopter when it first came out. When it first came out, a lot of people don't realize this, but you could get it on your Sony TV. You could get it on your Sony Blu-ray player as well, as long as you had a DualShock 3. That's how long PS Now has been out. It's been out since the fact that you could do PS Now, I believe, on the PS3, or I'm not sure. I have to look that up. I think it was PS3 and PS4, and they took away the ability to do it on PS3 pretty shortly after that, because I was able to do it on my Vita as well. It was not great when it first came out because it was streaming, but I never really had any issues with it. My internet's always been decent. I know there's some people that don't have decent internet. I wouldn't advise playing like a Call of Duty or some like Twitch shooter on there, but you could play, like I played Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 on there. I played Darksiders on there, just streaming it, and it was fine. I never had any issues. Like there was some latency here and there, but nothing that's worse than when I'm playing any game on my Nintendo Switch, being honest with you. So when it came down to when they included downloads for the PS4 version of the games, I think that is something that a lot of people don't talk about. They think of PS Now is just a streaming service. It's not just streaming. You can download your PS4 games. So there's not really an issue when it comes to that. And there's another thing that I don't think a lot of people realize either. And I don't know if this is just me. So there are certain PS3 games that are on PS Now that they just gave you access to if you have the service. You can download them. So when I hooked up my PS3 again, I think when I renewed my subscription, all of a sudden it said I got a bunch of PS3 games that I was able to download. I can't confirm or deny that. I was like, I haven't seen anybody else talk about that, but I noticed that the other day because I was like, I never bought those games, but those games are correlated to PS Now. So I was like, there must be some type of service that they were trying to work on that all of a sudden now I've got access to a bunch of games I didn't have beforehand that I did have access to on PS Now originally. So I thought that was interesting. So I do think the service is definitely decent. I do think that one of the cons for PS Now is the content that they bring to it. I do think they celebrate a lot of things that maybe people shouldn't celebrate. And I do think the fact that you don't have PS5 games on it right now is a big ooh. Look at Xbox. Xbox Game Pass is killing it. A lot of people love it. But look at the fact that the Avengers version that you get on PS Now, well, I think it was limited as well, was also only the PS4 version. So if you have a PS5, you're still playing the PS4 version and so on and so forth. You're not really pushing yourself forward when it comes to that. A lot of that may be, monetary things like, hey, how much money do we want to put into this? What do we want to do with this? So, I understand when it comes to that. But what I don't understand is that we put some great games on PS Plus, and then it's just, here's the thing. You're never going to satisfy every gamer, and that's okay. It's not going to be, you're not going to do it, right? Because, like, anybody that has, like, let's take a look at the examples of the games this month. You get Deep Rock Galactic for PS4, PS5. You get Persona 4 Strikers, and you get Dirt 5. Okay. A great month for me. I don't have any of those games, right, on PS Plus. So that's a great month for me. But if you've already got Persona 5 Strikers, and you've already got Dirt 5, and the only game you didn't have was Deep Rock Galactic, you're like, wow, this month sucked. Yeah, this sucks for me. Or My favorite thing is you go and buy a game on discount, and the next month it's on PlayStation Plus. How many times did I almost buy Maneater when it was on discounted, and then finally they're like the next like week or so, it was like, oh hey, it's on PlayStation Plus. But 2021, let's go back to that, had a great year for PS Plus. I think one of the best years in recent times. Because if we remember on our PS Plus when we had PS3s, we were getting like exclusives like every month, and it was crazy. Those are great times. Then the PS4 came out, and you were getting, indies here and there, and then later on, once more games were out, you were getting drops about a year or so later. So PS Plus, I think, has come a long way in general when it comes down to how it keeps up the pace with necessarily like a games with like it destroys games with gold. Games with gold has never even mattered to PS Plus, but PS Plus is able to really benefit from the fact that like look at games like Rocket League. Rocket League, I don't think would have been in the same spot if it wasn't for PS Plus, personally. And I think there's a lot of games that use that to its advantage. Like when I had Bug Snacks, I would have never played Bug Snacks, but because it was PS Plus on the PS5, I played the hell out of the game. I platinumed that game, and I love that game, and I would buy a sequel for it right now. I can't wait for the DLC. I'm going to buy the DLC. I don't know if it's a free update or not, but I'm going to buy it if it's not. It's a great game. Support the developer. So I think PS Plus has a great way to do that. Fall Guys is a prime example. We got Fall Guys for free on PS Plus, and that game took over the world like Rocket League did. And I don't think it would have been as big if it wasn't for PS Plus. Game Pass, to me, hasn't done that yet. And that's something that, a lot of people may go, well, it's two different things. But it's really not, because the idea of putting your game on Game Pass is to get it out in front of everybody, right? But I haven't heard of a game, personally, that's got the kind of exposure a lot of Rocket League or a Fall Guys has from Xbox Game Pass. It hasn't been the same. Some of that's because those games are and they start off exclusive on Sony consoles, but eventually they start on PC as well, and the Xbox games start on PC as well. So there's not really a correlation when it comes down to exclusivity there. It's just Xbox doesn't have a lot of buzz. PlayStation is always the one that has buzz to it. So anytime that you release a new game on PlayStation Plus, you have the opportunity to make it huge, to make it big. I think it has to have a certain look to it, personally, though. I don't think Deep Rock Galactic is going to be one of those games that has a life because of it. Fall Guys and Rocket League both hit the, I wouldn't say just kid-friendly, but the very competitive nature. I think when you have a game that's extremely competitive and it comes out that way, I think that's when you're able to really kind of capitalize on that kind of stuff. So I think that's when you can really kind of go to like the next level. And make your game successful. PS Now hasn't done that with anything. So if you're a company who's looking for, well, what do I put my game on? Honestly, I would look at what kind of game I had. And then I would go, do I want to do Game Pass? Do I want to do PS Plus? Do I do PS Now? You don't do PS Now because that's not what PS Now is for currently. So that would be a big con for PS Now. It's not something that you would put a new game on, I don't think. I think there's like 2 or 3 million subscribers last time Sony released any information on PS Now. PS Plus, though, that has the most subscribers of any service, but there's no guarantee your game is going to be 100% of a hit. And then Xbox, I mean, you get a first initial wave in your first initial week, but is your game going to be on there forever? Because like, look at how many games leave those services. The same thing with Now. But PS Plus, I've got the game forever as long as I'm a PS Plus member. So those are kind of some aspects. So back to 2021. So let's talk about PS Plus in 2021. How do you guys feel it did? I think it did really good. I think there were some months that were like not great, but I think going back and looking at all the titles that you got, I mean, you got a lot of PS5 titles. Maquette was a great puzzle platformer or a puzzle game. I was able to platinum the game, so hey, cool. It's a great platinum for me, and it was a fun little game. It was a game I would never have bought as well, but I was able to play it through and kind of go from there. So I do think there's a lot of precedence when it comes to that. PS Now, I think, got a little bit better, but I do think every exclusive should be on PS Now already. at least when it comes down to PS4 exclusives. So I do think that should be something that, people should look at. So I would also say that some of the other ideas from 2021, we look at some of the games that came out, and Returnal. If you haven't played it, play it. It's amazing. It's like a Metroid, but a new feeling to it. You know what I mean? It does Metroid as good as Metroid does it. That feeling of isolation, that feeling of loneliness, not knowing what's behind the next door, and just kind of going from the next room to the next room. I think that's a great feeling. Um, Ratchet and Clank. I just got to play Ratchet and Clank in December. That game is awesome. Now it's not going to win every award because it's what you expect. It's another Ratchet and Clank game, but it looks amazing. It's the best game I've ever seen graphically. At least like on a console performing as well as it could. It looks it's stunning. It really is. 60 performance mode with I think it's the very performance mode where it actually still keeps the ray tracing on and everything like that. It just looks outstanding. The DualSense controller with it is outstanding. The same way with Returnal. Returnal looks great, plays great, feels great with the DualSense. Um, and you've got games like that came out like Deathloop, right? That was exclusive. Now Deathloop is an odd one because it's technically under the Microsoft banner, because Xbox, bought Bethesda, so technically it's a Microsoft Studio game. We'll dive into that another day, when it comes to opinion based and things like that. But yeah, so I look at it from an aspect of 2021 wasn't the greatest year for game releases. We all know how many games probably got delayed. Horizon was going to come out last year, it got delayed. I'm sure Elden Ring was going to probably come out as well, but it got delayed. It got delayed probably behind the scenes, same thing as Horizon, and then it got delayed again. Not a very big delay. But I do think that I think gaming choices were there for 2021. I also think that you should be able to incorporate a little bit of the late releases from 2020. Demon Souls is fantastic. If you never played it before, if you've been interested in Souls games, it's a great start. The first playthrough is easy enough. Second playthrough is brutal. It's kicking my ass right now. But the game itself is fantastic. It looks beautiful, and it's a great demonstration of what the PS5 is fully capable of doing already. Right? Microsoft 2021, was related with games like Microsoft Flight Simulator, Forza 5, and Halo. Well, what do we know about Microsoft? Well, Xbox has Forza, Halo, and Gears. So you haven't you released games that people knew you were going to come out with anyway. So I think that's something that you have to look at it from the aspect of, okay, so Sony released games like Ratchet and Clank. Well, we haven't had a new Ratchet and Clank entry since like 2014. We had the remake in 2016, that went along with the terrible movie, but we didn't have an actual full entry for a while. I know it was a while for Halo as well. The game did not have a great development cycle. Forza always delivers. We're not shocked that Forza's the best racing experience that you can get. Yeah, 100%. I would love to play Forza. I would play Forza all day versus Gran Turismo. Because Gran Turismo is just way too, there's just way too much going on in there for me to understand it, to work properly. And that's fine. Nintendo had a decent year for the most part. So I mean, 2021, it's games. I don't think any of them, unfortunately, are going to be remembered as well as some of them should be. I think Returnal is the most underrated title this year, personally. I think it's well deserved of any Game of the Year award it receives. Deathloop is the most overrated game, in my opinion. I did not like Deathloop. Bought Deathloop day one, was excited for it. Never really been the biggest Arcane fan, so Dishonored hasn't hit for me. But Deathloop, no. Played at least 5 to 8 hours of it. It just does not stick with me. It's not for me, and that's okay. That's fine. When I say overrated, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that you're wrong for thinking it's the best game of the year. If it's your best game of the year, that's great. I just don't. It doesn't click for me, so I don't understand. There's things that I like about it, but then there's things that I'm just like, man, it just doesn't hit in certain spots for me, and that's just that's how I feel about it. I talked with a few other people that bought it day one with me as well, but we kind of had the same opinion because we were kind of like, oh hey, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm here. I've got I've killed four visionaries in a day, but I haven't really felt the need to go back to it. So yeah, 2021 Deathloop, Forza, those are going to be the games that win Game of the Year awards. But I think Returnal is a game that a lot of people they're just going to overlook. I think Returnal would benefit immensely on being a PS5 or be a PS Plus game. No, we talk about it. So I think that's something that really could benefit from that. But what did you guys think of the year 2021? Let me know in the comments on any of the, like I said, podcast services and YouTube or anything like that. What did you guys think about 2021? Were you happy with it? Was there anything that you want me to elaborate more on? Was there something you want to talk about when it comes to that? Thank you guys for sticking with the stream. We're growing every single day. I'm working on intros and things like that. I'm working on, I'll get some LED lights that we're going to be hanging from the walls and stuff like that. Doing some construction and stuff. Got a nice, wonderful new sign here. So, with that being said, thank you guys. I greatly appreciate you stopping by. Go ahead and leave a follow on the Twitch account if you can. We're almost at affiliate level. We're almost there. And then, of course, Twitter, Millennial Nerds, and then YouTube, Millennial Nerds, and then Millennial Nerds as well when you're searching at the podcast. They'll be on all podcast fronts soon. So thank you again. I can't wait to get in to do more of this. This is awesome. And I just I'm really excited, and thank you once again.